Hi there, and welcome to the Play Therapy Circle. Before we begin, please note this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. It does not provide therapeutic advice, and listening does not create a client therapist relationship. All views expressed are my own, and any case examples shared have been de identified to protect privacy. If you're seeking personal support, please reach out to a qualified mental health professional in your area. Hi, and welcome to an episode of the Play Therapy Circle. I'm Kylie Ellison, a therapist, clinical supervisor, and play therapy trainer, and I'm so grateful you're here. This podcast is a space for thoughtful, soulful conversations about child-centered therapy, play-based work, and what it means to show up with presence and compassion, both for our clients and for ourselves. Whether you're a seasoned play therapist, a student just starting out, or someone deeply passionate about working with children, you belong here. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Play Therapy Circle podcast. I'm your host, Kylie Ellison, and I am so glad you are here. Welcome, you guys, episode 23. Woot woot. It is the 13th of December. Holy moly. Oof, if I thought I was tired last week, here I am again. Yay. How are you guys doing? Like truly, how are you doing? For those of you watching on YouTube, or I think it's Spotify as well that has the video these days too, I managed to grab this pink set. It's a clothing label named Proud Poppy. I don't know if anyone's heard of it before. I haven't shopped with them for ages, but I put it on today because I was like, I just need some color vibes, you guys, and it's been magic. It's been really cool. I feel very colourful and sprightly today, which is unusual for this time of year because we literally have 12 days until Christmas. Have you finished your Christmas shopping? Okay, confession time. I have one more to go, kind of. I have one more to go and then maybe a couple more, but we're on the home stretch with that. I went to the shopping centre yesterday here in Brisbane, one of the bigger ones. So for those of you who live in Brisbane, you would know Garden City Shopping Centre is where I went in Brisbane. I was expecting it to be really busy. It wasn't so much. So I'm not sure if that means that people are going away now, which we saw obviously that change over Christmas a few years ago with COVID and COVID lockdowns, that people were staying local. Or they were only just kind of traveling around, kind of within an hour and a half of Brisbane kind of thing, either to the Sunshine Coast or the Gold Coast. But maybe people are going out of town or overseas now, which is great. People are going away for holidays with their families. So it wasn't as busy as I thought, which was kind of nice because I was there. I think we worked out in the end. We left home at 10 and we got home at 5. So we were there for like 7 hours. So if any of you guys are in the trenches of taking your kids to the shopping centre to get your last minute Christmas shopping done, I see you, I feel you, I understand and I care, as Carrie Lynch would say. Truly. But I feel like, and I don't know if anyone else is feeling this as well, our office is going to close next Friday. So it does feel like we're on the home stretch. I don't feel like I can relax just yet because I know I've got things on my to-do list. But once that is done, I think there'll be a real intentionality of me kind of going, okay, cool, I've got a couple of weeks off and I'm just going to stay home and enjoy my family. And I hope that that is an option for you as well, or whatever your version of self-care looks like over Christmas, New Year. I hope for all of you listening that you get a beautiful break over this time because it's been a massive year. It's been a massive year. So what I wanted to do, this episode is going to come out next week, and this is going to be a two-parter, this episode. So I have titled it 10 Things All Play Therapists Need to Know for Christmas. Ta-da! So we're going to do that. This episode is going to be all about our client work and our families that we serve and how to support them at this time of year. The next parter will be about looking after ourselves because we are just as important in this process of child-centered play therapy. Then over the week between Christmas and New Year, there'll just be a little short video from me saying hello and everyone. Thank you. And then we will get back into episodes the beginning of January when I am heading to Bargara. So any of you guys who know north of Brisbane, northern part, it's about 6 hours drive north from Brisbane. And we like to go there as a family. My husband's family like to get together up there as well over the Christmas New Year period. And I find Bargara, and I encourage you guys, I'll talk more about this in the second part of this episode next week, but I encourage you to find, and it's taken me a long time, so I don't know that I'm necessarily completely sold on this either. I'm sure I will find other places over my life. But I think it's important if you can find a place that helps you just stop and connect and regulate and recharge, you hold on dear to that place. So Bargara for us has been that for quite a few years now as a family. And I find it so special because you can literally sit on the beach. It's not a very busy town, which is great. That may change in years to come as more people discover it, but it's really nice. There is a tree, actually. I don't even know if it's still there. It'll be interesting to see if it's still there when we go up in January. But there's a tree where someone local has set up, essentially, it's like nature play, and they've put together, created like a little bit of a cubby house on a tree that sits at the beach. It's kind of up higher so it doesn't catch the waves, and kids can play on it, and it's kind of got instructions about what kids can do. I don't even know if it's still there, but my kids love it, and it's just one of those places where it's not busy, there's not a lot of people. There's an amazing coffee shop. I was never like this, you guys. If you guys have been following on the socials, because I'm a geriatric millennial, I call it the socials, I have been trying to post more a little bit about my life and what I get up to each day. So if you are interested, and it's totally fine if you're not, but if you are, I post that over on the Play Therapy Circle social media on Instagram and Facebook. So if you're interested, feel free to follow along on Instagram and socials and Facebook. But I didn't realize how much coffee I drink. I actually don't drink a lot. I actually only have 2. And this is, again, confession time. Everyone can confess their coffee level of their coffee addictions. But I have one first thing in the morning, and then I'll have one more in the morning session. So for any of you play therapists in the trenches, I will generally have a couple of sessions and then kind of coffee in the morning, tea like around 10:30, and then that's probably about it. I don't tend to have any more after that. So I realized that's a big part of my morning is getting coffee. So if that's also a big part of your day, welcome. You are in a safe space here. I also love a lot of coffee. I didn't take it up until I was like in my 30s though, like wild. I went through all of the newborn stage and the early baby years and the no sleep with not a zero amount of caffeine. No caffeine at all. And then discovered it because I was like, it actually was, full confession time guys, it was actually like a New Year's resolution. And this is really timely this time of year when we talk about New Year's resolutions. My New Year's resolutions have really evolved over the years. So maybe that's something I'll put in my end of year podcast episode is, what is your New Year's resolutions? What are you going to do next year that you want to work towards? Anyway, that particular year, it must have been, I want to say 2015 or 2016, when my kids were like 2 and 3, something like that, maybe older. And I was just like, everyone drinks coffee and I don't, and I feel really left out. And when I go to coffee shops, you know, to catch up with friends, I'm having like a hot chocolate and it's boring. So I'm going to try drinking coffee. And that was the end. I've never looked back. So maybe now I'm 43. That's probably about 10 years ago. Oh my God. Where has the year gone and where have the years gone? Far out. No, wait. I'm 42. Wait. Yeah, I'm 42. 43 next year. So 10 years next year. Well, there you go. There you go. So if you need a lot of coffee at the moment to get through the Christmas New Year period, you have my blessing. You have my blessing. All of the things. I have, for those of you watching, I'm just holding up now, I have a matcha. Yeah, because the coffee that we have around the corner here, it's literally like less than a K from our house, and I drive every time. You can absolutely bet I do not walk that 800 meters. I drive. Anyway, the coffee there is very strong. And so I took a turn for the worse the other day when I had too much caffeine. So that's not pleasant. But the matcha is great. So we are living our best lives with matcha. I never thought I'd be that person either. So here we are. I am definitely going to do an episode at the end of the year about where have we been this year and where are we going? I've just unpacked so much in that 8 minutes that we've just been talking. Okay, I need to get back to the reason why we are here today and probably why you guys are listening and in the background going, okay, Kylie, thank you for the update. Let's just get on with it. So I hear you. Okay, I want to talk about this episode, as I said, about working with kids. There has definitely been a lot of supervisees I've connected with over the last week who have been talking about the fact that things have maybe gotten a little bit more hectic in the playroom. I am seeing from our private practice perspective, we are fully booked up until I'm literally seeing clients on the last day that we close our office because I've got some last minutes, and it's something I haven't seen for a few years now. So I think it's really interesting just where we are at as a community, and I promise there will be more episodes deep diving into all of these challenges that our families are facing in 2026 with heaps more episodes to come next year, you guys. But I think just helping you to feel like you are not alone if you are working as a sole trader in private practice by yourself, if you're just working on your own, for our international guests and listeners. So how can we help support our families during this time? So in Australia, everyone is different. Just to kind of clarify to our international listeners, when we are talking about the Christmas New Year period, our practice is going up until the 19th of December, and then we're going to be reopening on the 12th of January. So taking about 3 weeks off. That is, I guess, normal. Everyone has a different process, depending on their community and, their availability and all of those things, right? So there's lots that go into that consideration around how long you close for. Some practices may only be closing for 2 weeks, so they might be coming back the week before. So that would be I'm trying to do the maths in my head for anyone who's watching on YouTube. You can see my head going tick, tick, tick. I feel like someone's probably yelling it out. It's the 5th of January, 2026. Some folk might be coming back. I can only talk to Brisbane guys, so I'm just going to do that, and I'm sure it's different where you are listening in your part of the world. But for our Brisbane community, oftentimes a lot of our government government departments close down as well over that Christmas New Year period, or they have skeleton staff, or they just have on-call staff. So I'm speaking about things like Youth Justice, Department of Child Safety, all of those kind of government bodies that support our communities as well. So it tends to be a slower time of year in terms of work for our communities in that really weird stage between Christmas and New Year, like after sort of the 26th and then kind of until New Year's, it's an odd time of year. So I don't know if that's the same for you, especially for, say, our American listeners. I know we've got quite a few of you guys listening. It might be a little bit different where you work right up until just before Christmas, and then maybe you guys come back after the weekend. I'm really not sure. Definitely feel free to reach out and share all of the things about your experience. We always love to hear from our listeners, but it obviously is different. So take this with a grain of salt of where you are in the world. But I know definitely in Brisbane and in Australia right now, there is so many different factors that are influencing why we are seeing so much challenge in our playrooms. So I want to list a few of those for you now. So I think definitely that end of year culmination of therapy work. Oh my gosh. And for some of you, like for some of my clients, I'm coming up to 2-3 years of working with them, which I see as such an incredible privilege. And if my clients are listening, I don't know if they would be, but families that I have worked with this year or I'm still working with, I honestly feel it's a privilege and an honor to have that opportunity and that time to work with them. So I don't take that for granted at all. However, I think it's one of those things where if we've been catching up regularly throughout the year and then we go on a break. So for me personally, because of next week I'm not doing any client work, I have training to do. So it's going to be 4 weeks break for my clients, which is, obviously a big break. And we know in CCPT protocol, not ideal either. It's not something I regularly do at all. I usually only take a week or two. As you guys know, I only took 1 week this year. So like I've been pretty consistent all year, but I think everyone needs a break. And when I've been mentioning it to some of my clients, they've also been sort of saying, yep, we're ready for the break as well. So I think it's not just us as therapists, but I'm sure there are families in our community that also feel that end of year kind of culmination. I think one of the things that I've noticed as well with a lot of our families across our clinic, so I'm not just thinking of one of two, I'm thinking across our clinic, and I'm in Brisbane as well, to clarify. Many of the parents are saying, I just can't do it this year. Like Christmas vibes, Christmas festive spirit, all of those things. They are genuinely all telling me they're overwhelmed, which I haven't had for a few years. I'd really love, I guess, those of you listening, if you have had a different experience, I'm always keen to learn, and I'd love to know what your experience has been in your part of the world, because we have 31 countries listening. So I would love to hear if it's been different for you, and I guess your secrets of success, because definitely here in Brisbane, the number of, and I don't want to be gender specific. I never like doing that. But on this occasion, I guess to kind of clarify who I've been talking to, generally mums that I've been speaking to across our practice community of those families that we serve. So many, like I lost count of how many mums were kind of like, I feel like the Grinch this year. If I heard that like 5 times, I probably heard it more. And that was like self-elicited. I didn't kind of offer that, metaphor. I didn't kind of ask any direct questions. I was just like, hey, how you doing? As anyone who is a parent or caregiver in the trenches of the Christmas period would probably also respond with. So I found that fascinating, because again, that's not been something I've encountered before, but genuinely some of our parents feeling just so overwhelmed with the task of Christmas. And I am a Christmas lover. If anyone knows me well, I've got Christmas nails on. I'm going to show them on the screen there. And yeah, I'm going to get Christmas nails next week for Christmas. Yeah, 100%. But even for me, and this is self-confession times, I don't know how this got so real, this episode. I'm always doing this, you guys. Going deep quickly. It's not necessarily felt like that. And I think that when I reflect on it, it's partly just the culmination of the year, what I was saying before, but I think it's also potentially the heaviness of everything around us. So for us in Brisbane, again, we've had the cyclone in March. We had an earthquake. My daughter reminded me the other day, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. It was fine. We rebuilt. It was fine. But we've had that, and then we had the hailstorm a couple of weeks ago while we were away that we are still needing repairs for. So it's been a big year just on our communities and everyone and their families, let alone anything else that you've got going on in your own personal life as well, whether that's a separated family, whether that's your own mental health issues, whether there's challenges for your kids, financial strain, job security, all of those things, right? That's all on top of it. So I just want to recognize if you are also feeling a little bit exhausted as a therapist, I want to give you that permission to slow down, I guess, to pace yourself, to kind of get yourself through the next little bit. You're almost there. So what I think is important before I go into the first 5 things I think every play therapist at Christmas time needs to know, I just want to give a further, I guess, list of those contributing factors for why we might be seeing challenges in the playroom and challenges with our families. So we know this time of year, and again, I've gotten so much feedback from families about this in the last week. You've got so many events. So again, talking to Brisbane, you guys, I always like to give context. In Brisbane, a lot of our schools will do end of year graduations. They'll do end of year Christmas concerts. There'll be gift giving. Usually it's a real wind down of academia. So it's lots of kind of free play days, which is great. We love that as play therapists, right? But it's a change in their routine from their normal school experiences, because sometimes these events often go late. It can mean then the next day the kids are coming to school really tired. My son actually had his graduation because he's finishing grade 6. He's going into high school next year, and he had his graduation and graduation party, and it didn't finish until like 9, I think, at night on the Wednesday night, and they still had Thursday the next day to go to school. So that's a big kind of difference to normal routines is my point. So there's also, I guess, conversations or practical experiences of more family proximity. So we're starting to have more experiences with extended families or events or occasions or get-togethers where we wouldn't have normally. So absolutely, in terms of sensory load, absolutely heightened. I just found that yesterday at the shopping centre, and so anyone who's been to the shopping centre at Christmas time, just the Christmas music blaring, so many people talking and yelling, and it's a lot. So that's just in a shopping centre. That's not even in other contexts like school, classrooms, or other settings. So we can find too in that family space, if we're talking about that family unit, oftentimes our families are experiencing that financial stress. There is certainly challenges, I guess, around if this is, say, the first year that you're having Christmas as a separated family. So it's not necessarily that the separation has just occurred. It's happened maybe sometime during the year, and now we are navigating our first Christmas apart. So families under strain, families feeling that stress. There being potentially a grief and loss around that too, that they're feeling that difference and that challenge. Certainly our kids will absorb that. They won't necessarily talk about it. They won't show any obvious signs of them understanding, but on an unconscious level, they definitely will. And I think we as therapists are holding certainly more intensity as kids are trying to process upcoming events, things that are going to be happening in their lives over Christmas, New Year. So there's a lot happening. One of my clients I was chatting to over the last week and explained that I would be on break, and I was saying to this client, we've been hanging out for so long, and I was just, it really was a very different session to a normal child-centered play therapy session. I really want to caveat that. I found my last play therapy sessions for the year was really about connection and attunement and co-regulation, as opposed to making sure I was saying exactly right, tracking, reflecting feelings, and limit setting. I certainly, kept the space with boundaries and safety and emotional attunement and all of those good things. But I made a point of just acknowledging that it was our last session for the year and that we would be having a 4-week break. So we know we do that with endings. This is obviously a little bit different because I will be seeing them all again in the new year. So it's not an ending as such. It's a pause. It's a break that we're having for Christmas. And I was sharing that with one of my long-term clients and making a joke around, well, if you feel like after this break you're doing really well and you don't need to come back. And this client was like, oh no, I'll be back. And I was like, I knew you'd say that. So for many of our clients, we're going to talk about this break at the end, but I think it's really interesting how clients respond to it and what that means in terms of how they're traveling at the moment before you go on that break. So it really gave me really interesting insight. Okay, I want to go into the first 5 things every play therapist should know, and then there will be a 2-parter. We'll release the other part of this episode the following week, just before Christmas. So let's talk a little bit about our clients. So the first thing, Christmas can be triggering even for happy families. Ta-da! Why do I say this? So we can have experiences at Christmas time that certainly, when we talk about play therapy and child-centered play therapy, you guys know so much of that work is in that unconscious space. What am I talking about in terms of that unconscious space? I'm talking about the first 5 years of life and that downloading of that program, of their understanding of relationships with others, as per Dr. Bruce Lipton's research. So with that in mind, there is the potential, if there has not been great experiences around Christmas, that can be triggering unconsciously for some of our kids and families. Children of all ages, you guys. I'm not just talking about our clients, but children of all ages. So we're keeping that in mind. It doesn't necessarily mean if it's a happy holiday setting that it doesn't help fix, I guess, any internal distress that the child might be experiencing as well. So just because we put a label on it and say, Merry Christmas, doesn't negate feelings they already have that they are trying to process and work through. So the holidays don't help those feelings or those experiences to just be paused. There can be, I'm just thinking of examples in my mind, and I actually can't think of any off the top of my head, where we have expectations for children to be good or to be grateful. I think that's definitely relevant. I think that's definitely the case. I think that it's important for us to be recognizing that for some of our kids, they are trying to put on a brave face and trying to do the best by their families, but they're also struggling. So that's really hard when we're then asking them to be good or to be grateful or to be well behaved during this time. Grief and loss often surfaces most strongly during this time. So it may not even necessarily be about Christmas specifically, but if this time of year elicits, I guess, feelings of grief and loss, if there has been, say, a family member or a family friend who's passed during this time, not necessarily on Christmas Day, but around this time period, that can be really hard if there's those kind of memories around this time that trigger that response. We avoid assuming safety based on appearances. So we want to make sure that kids are feeling that connection from an emotional attachment point of view, and making sure that we're helping to support parents to understand that as well. This can mean, certainly in relation to personal boundaries as well, when we're catching up with family and friends that we may not have caught up with for a while, or that potentially kids may not feel a sense of a relationship or connection with, making sure that just because they appear like lovely people, that we're also still maintaining that safety for our kids, and following their cues is really important. And certainly as play therapists in the playroom, making sure that we are offering a space for curiosity, not necessarily, Christmas cheer. So I know in terms of our practice, although we've got up a Christmas tree because I really love Christmas, but I also feel like it's important to live by our tenets of CCPT, as you guys know, of congruence, empathy, and unconditional positive regard. And so I wouldn't be congruent if I wasn't normalizing if our families are struggling or tired or just worn out at this Christmas period. And so I've actually found when I connect with families in the waiting room and I'm kind of like, how you doing? And you can imagine what I'm like with my clients, right? I absolutely adore all my families. But, instead of saying, yay, it's Christmas, I'm kind of like, how you doing? Are you okay? Because and the catchphrase from last week's episode that I found I've used all this week as well, that was really good, is I've been saying as a scaling tool to my families, are you surviving or thriving? Tell me where you're at, because it's okay if you're just surviving. So giving that space, that safety of space to our families, not just our kids, our clients, but our parents as well. Okay, number 2, children communicate Christmas stress through play, not words. So it's a good reminder for us and a good reminder if we need to communicate that to parents and caregivers as well. What does that mean in the playroom? We tend to see an increase in chaotic play, either regressive play or aggressive play, repetition of themes, a lot of things around control, safety and security, abandonment, grief and loss, rescue. These are all amped up during this Christmas holiday period as kind of a response or a processing of everything that they're going through in this moment. So symbolic play can often contradict verbal narratives. So we know oftentimes in child centered play therapy that symbolic play is very much their unconscious mind, their unconscious world. And so while they might be cognitively, verbally saying how happy they are for Christmas, but showing us something very different symbolically, it's important we're listening to that symbolism. So keeping that in mind. The emotional expression might spike during this time. So I've actually had both. And I just offer that invitation for reflection now to everyone listening who is working in this space. You might be seeing either increased levels of aggression or almost like a going backwards in terms of regressive regression of their presentations. So I've had kids that have actually been a lot more withdrawn, but using symbolism to tell me about how overwhelmed they're feeling, as opposed to other clients who need to physically move, who need to expend a lot of energy, who have that heightened emotional state. So there can be both, and that's completely fine in the playroom. That's completely understandable given the context of Christmas. Play is regulation and communication, not defiance. Ooh. Important to remember. And trust the process. Containment matters more than interpretation. Let me say that again. Containment matters more than interpretation. So we are holding space for our clients at the moment who are having a tough time. We know throughout the year they are, but at this time of year, there's a different lens that we can look at it through, an additional lens, not a different lens, an additional lens to help us understand where they're at. Number 3, you don't need to fix Christmas for your clients. You're welcome. You're welcome. We definitely at this time of year can feel that pressure because often families are struggling. And we can feel that transference and countertransference of needing to make them feel better or making that experience for them better. Ultimately, I always go back to locus of control, what's within our circle of influence and what's outside. And so for us, this is definitely about helping them to be able to cope as opposed to fixing it for them. Over-functioning, which can then disrupt those therapeutic boundaries. Feeling like we need to do more when we don't need to. Being present is often enough. Being present is often enough. Holding disappointment for our clients is part of the CCPT work. And it's not necessarily something that we need to fix. Therapy doesn't need to have a festive overlay, so it's okay if, like us, you've just done a tree. That's it. That's what we've got this year. That's where we're at. That's where we're at. That's okay. That's actually okay. And regulation and witnessing are interventions in CCPT. Regulation and witnessing are interventions in CCPT. Love it. Number 4, boundaries matter more in December, not less. Okay, let's talk about it. So increased requests for extra sessions. Who's had that? Who's listening? Who's had that? I just said at the beginning that I'm seeing clients on the last day that we close our office. Yep. Yes, I am. So it's important that once you are closed, once you are offline, that you are not doing more appointments. You have that boundary in place that, your work time period over Christmas is, this date to that date. And certainly we will have those increased requests, but there is only so much we can do as therapists. So maintaining that boundary is important. Offering reassurance to our families because they'll often be seeking it before the break. And I've done a point of emailing all my families to give them the appointments for next year. And I've made a point of reassurance, of connection, of planning for next year and wishing them a Merry Christmas. So, sometimes having that ritual or kind of ending to your work year can be helpful, just to provide them with the information that they need and offer them that reassurance before they head into the break with you. We have on our voicemails and on our out of office replies over the period that we are closed, all of those emergency service contact information for families to be able to access while we're closed as well, because we are not a crisis service. We're not an on-call service as a private practice. So I encourage you guys to do that as well, to kind of hold those boundaries of offering some alternative contact numbers over the Christmas period, because I often think, and I think is quite relevant, that issues and problems for our families don't just go on a pause for 2 weeks or 3 weeks while we're away. Like, they have lives and it's important that they can still access support. Therapists are tempted to stretch themselves just this once. Again, does that resonate? I don't know. We're not going to do that, guys. We're going to hold boundaries. Clear endings support the nervous system. I think we all need it. Excuse me. We all need it. We need it as therapists. The clients need it as well. To have those clear endings, like I said, I've done my email, I've done my documentation to say, this is when we're closing, this is when we'll be away, so that it helps to support that nervous system for all involved. Boundaries model predictability during chaos. And I do like that. And I do find for clients where there is that high experience of anxiety, having countdowns. So I've obviously been doing that with my clients to let them know when our sessions will be finishing up and when I'll be seeing them in the new year, and repeating that to families, both in person and in the emails, so that everyone has that, notice and are able to prepare and have those boundaries in place. So it's really important to do that. And saying no can be therapeutic, not harmful, because it's actually really important that we hold those boundaries with the clients that we work with. All right, last one, and then I promise this was going to be a short episode, and we're up to 35 minutes. Yay for us. This has not happened. Quick episode. Okay, number 5, you are allowed to be a human with feelings about Christmas. Therapists bring their own Christmas history into the CCPT playroom. Whew, we all do. We all have our experiences that even to our best efforts might sneak in. What does that mean? So grief, stress, and ambivalence are common. And if any of those are part of your experience, you are not alone. So if you're working alone right now, this is your reassurance that you are human too. We all go through this human experience together. And sometimes, even for us as therapists, the Christmas period can be really hard. So what does that also mean? That sometimes when we're talking about this psychodynamically, we might also see countertransference show up. So again, if you're noticing that, take a minute to ground yourself, do a quick breathing exercise, go outside, get some fresh air, have a snack, have a drink, go to the toilet, take a little break between sessions, and make sure that you're looking after yourself and pacing yourself through this next little bit. Awareness protects the therapeutic relationship. So if we have an idea of how this period feels for us, we can then honor those feelings, acknowledge those feelings, and still then be able to be present for our clients, which is the most important thing in CCPT. So you don't need to resolve your feelings as a therapist to be effective. And I think that was my point earlier when I was talking about how I've been checking in with parents in the waiting room kind of over the last couple of weeks and sort of saying, are you surviving or thriving? Because we all have our different experiences, and some people might be having, some play therapists listening right now, CCPT practitioners might be saying, I'm having a great time. I'm so excited. This is great. And I am so, so happy for you, like truly. And you are my goal for this time next year. I swear to God, I'm going to have my life together, and next year I'm going to be like so zen at Christmas time. But if it's not, and if you're like me and you're still doing Christmas shopping on the 13th of December, I think that authenticity helps to normalize those experiences when we acknowledge that as part of our check-ins with our parents, to say, you are not alone. So many families are struggling right now. It's a hectic time of year. So you don't need to necessarily have the answers and have yourself completely fixed and resolved in order to support your clients. And support and supervision matters. I have supervision next week. Just before Christmas, because I want to. And actually I had my other clinical supervisor, so I've got two. I had my other clinical supervisor the beginning of this week. Oh my God. And yes, you can't do it without them. So mine is pretty much weekly, my supervision. And I think that that's important. If you have a chance to connect with your supervisor before you go on leave or before you close your practice, great. Otherwise, make sure you've got something scheduled in for when you come back, so that you can get into that right sort of head space and frame of mind to start back your work as well. So this has been part 1. It's almost 38 minutes, you guys. I'm going to wrap myself up I'm going to wrap myself up, because we will have part 2 of this episode next week, and that will be tailored to looking at us as play therapists, as CCPT practitioners, how we can support ourselves just before Christmas. So that will be part 2 next week. I just want to acknowledge the emotional labor of holding others and their holding space for them at the moment, that every one of you listening, I know, is doing an incredible job. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for showing up, for using child-centered play therapy, for offering a safe space for kids to just be themselves, to tell their story in their way, in their time. And I'm so proud of each of you for holding that CCPT modality and offering that to your clients during this really busy time. So go well. Have a great week ahead, or rest of your week whenever you are listening to this. Look after yourselves and each other, and I will be back for part 2 next week before we wrap things up for the end of the year of our first year of our podcast. So thank you for listening along. Thank you so much for your support. Check us out on socials, on Instagram and Facebook, the Play Therapy Circle podcast. We would love to hear from you. So I will catch you guys again next week. Bye. Thank you so much for being here for another episode of the Play Therapy Circle. If anything resonated with you today, I'd love it if you could follow the podcast, share it with a colleague, or leave a short review. It really helps others find our circle. And if you have a topic or question you'd love me to explore, I'd love to hear from you. This space is for you, and I want it to feel like a conversation. Until next time, take care of yourself, and remember, you belong here.